Hello and welcome to Late Night with Tina. I'm just kidding. It's only late night for me, not the rest of the world, right? We'll give you guys a minute to show up here, see what happens. No matter what I have done today, I cannot stay hydrated. It's been going on for 3 days. Hello, someone's here. Hello and welcome, someone, whoever you are. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit impromptu. Hello, Rachel. That's so weird. You're here, but it says there's no one here. Oh well. Mercury retrograde, solar flare, after solar flare, after solar flare. So let's talk briefly, and by briefly, I mean hopefully this won't be over an hour long, like my last several videos. Okay. There is so many incredible things going on right now. I would like to wait till some people get here, but I've seen comments and it says there's no one here. So I'm not sure if there's any kind of rational gauge with technology at the moment. Okay, Rachel, you're back. Tired of eating, really? I'm never tired of eating. In fact, I might change this to a food channel soon. Okay, Mary's there, Rachel's there, and it says 0 people are here, so if it wasn't for your comments, I wouldn't know that you were here. Okay, nothing like making videos in Mercury retrograde. The last one came out with no blurbs, no hiccups, and no tech problems whatsoever, which was really quite the miracle considering. And we are in Mercury retrograde for another 7 days. It goes until January 18th, so welcome to the greatest show on earth. Where to start? This is going to be impromptu. There's some crazy things I've noticed happening, and I made a short video about this a couple hours ago. Number 1, the Costco meltdown. And I'm kind of doing this as an experiment. I might tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing in the next video. We'll see how it goes. But so my dad and Jan were in Costco on December 23rd. Wow, there's something flying around my face like an invisible fairy. Maybe those are the spirit guides I called in. I'm not sure. So December 23rd, my dad and Jan were in Costco. And as you can imagine, 2 days before Christmas, it was a little bit crazy in there. Okay. So the store was packed, the parking lot was packed, the lines were pretty much out the door, as you can imagine, 2 days before Christmas. They were in line for quite some time when an employee came over the loudspeaker and said that they were not able to process credit cards or take anything other than cold hard cash. Okay. My dad, who is 77, said he has never in his life seen anything like this. People were throwing stuff, people were yelling, people were ditching their carts or just chucking out of the stuff out of their carts in order to have in their cart what they could actually pay cash for. Absolute mayhem in the store. Like I said, he's never seen anything like it. So they make the cash announcement, the cash only announcement, and there is an ATM in Costco. Okay. So then the ATM gets bum rushed, and my dad said in about 3 minutes, the ATM was completely out of money. So everybody else in line was at the ATM trying to get money after that point was a little bit crazy as well. Now, here's the experimental part because of what I know happens when I get in front of this camera. The only way a store on the second busiest day or the busiest day of the year would ever shut down the entire processing system was is if they had been hacked. Now, you guys know in the past couple of years, many stores have been hacked. Target was hacked a couple of years ago and sent letters saying that their database was hacked and that their customer information had been retrieved from that hack. Now, I'm thinking one of a couple, I'm not thinking, this is what came to my mind. One of a couple things I feel is what happened. There was some sort of hack, so they temporarily shut it down because that would be the only way you could. And you guys know that I am not a tech person by any stretch of the imagination. I just see things and I just feel things. So as far as Costco going cash only, that's one of two things. Either someone intentionally took that system down on the busiest day of the year, or they shut it down because there was something in the process of happening. So that was December 23rd. A couple of days later, when my dad had realized that one of the pipes in his floor had broken when it was -8 here in Ohio, which is a little colder than even normal, they went to Menards to pick up the supplies they needed. Menards apparently did not have the insulation, so they proceeded to go to Home Depot. They went back to Home Depot to the department they needed. They got the insulation for the floor and were on their way to the checkout when an overhead alarm system went off of flashing red and white lights. And then not a person, not a store manager like at Costco, but over the PA system came on a computer generated voice that said, emergency, exit the store, emergency, exit the store. And that's all they kept saying over and over again. Now, my dad told me he really thought about just taking his insulation and going up and getting in the line anyway, because he really needed to put the floor back down because it was really cold and he had to pull all the boards, pull the main boards up out of the floor to get down and fix the pipe and re-insulate it. So he said he was really considering not exiting the store as he was being directed. So there's a couple things that are weird about this. One thing is, normally if you're in a store and there's a problem, they let you know. Like I was in Kohl's maybe 10 years ago, and the power just went completely out. They just told people they could stay there or do whatever they wanted. They assumed that it would come back on shortly. My point is, I think this is a glitch, some sort of technology glitch, because I've never been in a store where they had any emergency kind of overhead lights go on. And also, if there's a problem in a store, you usually have a store manager talking to you and telling you what was going on. They were simply just repeating the fact that there was an emergency and to make your way to the exit as fast as possible, right? So, weekend, people are trying to file out of the hardware store packed like sardines. So my dad told me this, and this was the second incident, the first one being Costco, within a week. And I said, Dad, maybe you should think about staying home for a couple of days because I don't know what's going on. I didn't experience this firsthand. Home Depot was my dad and Jan. Costco was my dad and Jan. Now, about 6 or 8 weeks ago, I had to get a new debit card from PNC Bank. I got the new debit card and had not even used it, and I had not even called to initiate it, right? I have to call and activate your card. I had not even called and activated my card. I'd had it for, I guess, 3 or 4 days when I got a letter, or not a letter, excuse me, an email from PNC Bank saying that my account had been hacked, or they suspected fraud on my account. And the reason they suspected fraud on my account was because, this will tell you how old fashioned I am, guys, because someone ordered something on the internet, right? Immediately a fraud alert, because the only thing I've ever ordered off the internet in my life has been something from Tractor Supply. And I think you all know what that is. So I don't order online. I get an email from the bank saying, we believe there's fraudulent activity on your account. I call the bank and I asked them why they believed it was fraudulent. And they said, because you don't shop online. And I said, you're right, I don't. And I did not make this purchase. However, when I was telling the bank about the email that I received from PNC while talking to PNC customer service, PNC customer service said, we'll have to transfer you to the fraud department because honestly, it doesn't even sound like that email came from us. So they transferred me to the fraud department. I had to give them like the SKU number off of my email because they thought that the email itself was fraud, even though it came through on PNC Bank. And you guys all know 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had gotten a message saying that my PayPal account was hacked for $500. So you can imagine the intensity of electronics. Now, I do believe, I very much feel there are several things going on here. When I had to get a replacement debit card, I drove to the bank. It's 2 miles up the street. I did not want to wait 3 weeks for a new debit card to come in the mail. And I talked to the guy, but I had to talk to a teller first before I could go in and get a new card, right? So the guy was telling me, people can steal your credit card. They can walk by you in a restaurant. They have this machine that can steal your number and people can use it. They do the same thing at a gas station. Never use it at a gas station. Go into the store instead of paying at the pump. And I said, dude, bruh, I just got this card. It's not even activated and I haven't even used it. And I haven't even been out of the house with it for anyone to walk by me with any kind of machine that could read it and then use it. Now, keep in mind, and this is how I am as this triple Scorpio personality. I was testing the guy at the bank. I would say he was late 20s or early 30s. And I said, since I wasn't in a restaurant and I wasn't in a gas station and haven't even used this card, to me, I don't believe that someone external hacked it. I believe that this was actually PNC itself being hacked and the customer database then being breached. Now, I said this intentionally, looking him directly in the eye. He didn't even blink. He just said, yeah, more than likely that's the case, which I was shocked that he actually would admit that. So we have lots of things going on. We do have a state that has been kind of created in the last 3 years where people are in a state of desperation and there is a lot more thievery and things like that. However, when it comes to electronic thievery or hacking or anything along those lines, I don't believe this is your average Joe trying to figure out how to pay their bills. I believe this is happening on a very, very, very large scale. So one of the things that I feel is happening is the bank itself is being hacked. And that internally could even be coming from the bank or our own government. That's part of it. I also I'm not going to mention any names, but I know a friend of a friend whose account was hacked at one bank, and they transferred thousands and thousands of dollars from one bank to another bank with no personal authorization from the banking customer and no authorization from the bank. Now, the bank explained to my friend of a friend that in order to transfer thousands of dollars, you would have to go in person and do it and have somebody at the initiating bank sign some paperwork and authorize the transfer, at least minimally at a within the computer system of that bank itself. So thousands and thousands of dollars going from one bank to another bank with no customer or client authorization, no bank managers like everything was bypassed. So this has to be a hack. Now they did catch it, so they did force one bank to return it back to the other bank. But this is the kind of extremely bizarre stuff that we are going through now. Tech is crossing wires, and I believe there are a couple things. I believe that there are independently operated hackers that are doing this. This is what I'm seeing. I also believe that these multi-billion-dollar corporations themselves are involved in much of it on other levels. And I do realize that there are people out there, scamming credit card numbers and stuff, but the amount of activity that's going on as far as transfers and unauthorized purchases and all kinds of things like that, this is way too big to be that. So I feel, have that in conjunction with the fact that we have a lot of energy, which, as we know, you and I are already feeling this energy, but this energy very much wreaks absolute havoc on electronic transfers and electronics, period. So I have not been able to do anything smoothly in the last 7 or 8 days. And one experience I had to call my own phone company to do something extremely simple. I was on the phone with the phone company for 4.5 hours because every time they transferred me to the last department to authorize what I was calling to do, they disconnected me. At some point, I ended up calling back and asking for the number directly, because with this phone company, every single time I called back, I had to start all over again from the very beginning. Hi, my name is this. This is my address. This is the last 4 digits of my social security number. So I went over this and over this and over this for 4 hours straight. Now, that's not even the weird part. The part of the weirdness was the fact that I was getting disconnected over and over again for over 4 hours. But the weirdest part was, I'm hypersensitive, as you guys know. Me and technology, I can't have my phone on me all the time. It has to be 6 feet away from me. Otherwise, it stops working. So when I need to do anything really important on the computer or the phone, I go upstairs and get my neighbor from apartment number 4, and I have her do it for me. So after 4.5 hours on the phone with Straight Talk, who's a subsidiary of Verizon, they disconnected me again after being on hold for 38 minutes. Now, here's the really strange part. For 4 hours, I was dealing with a multitude of people in Asia. If I had to guess by the accent, I'm pretty sure I was speaking to customer representatives in India. But here's the thing. I took my phone upstairs to apartment number 4 and I said, please, for the love of God, save my life and finish this before I finish somebody in India and in customer service, right? So she said, okay, no problem. She's really good at getting past phone bypassing stuff and whatever. So she said she would do it for me. So she didn't have near as many problems as I did. However, in the last and final step of being transferred, she got transferred, and we went from Indian or some sort of Asian accent. And the last time she got transferred over to do the final step, the person that was speaking was a UK accent. So my question here is exactly how many lines of technology are getting crossed? I have never ever in the 2 years of having Straight Talk spoken to anyone that had a UK accent, and I have a lot of friends that I speak to in the UK. I know that accent very well, and I know that's exactly what it was. So how I ended up from Asia to the UK was one thing. The other thing was after 4.5 hours and her making the last and final call, the transfer from India that went to the UK said in the UK accent, "We are sorry, but we are experiencing technical difficulties to the point where there is nothing we can service you. We cannot provide any service to you," in a UK accent. And then we just got completely and totally disconnected. Now, I know some people think that this energy is normal, but let's use ourselves as a barometer, okay, instead of technology. There's a couple things I believe that are happening with technology. Been talking about this for a while, but for the new people, one thing that I definitely feel is happening is the energy is stronger. Now, you can say there is technology that is kind of mapping out or graphing out everything we're experiencing, the Schumann resonance, the electromagnetic current on the planet, the magnetosphere. Everything is being charted and mapped. So we have a couple. Nobody can agree on anything. Let's put it that way. Okay. These scientists can't agree on anything. No one can decide even the simplest of things, like whether we're in solar minimum right now or we're in solar maximum. So that's one thing you should know. Solar minimum and solar maximum is kind of self-explanatory. However, science cannot agree right now whether we are in solar minimum or solar maximum. That's the first thing I want you to know. The second thing I want you to know, I've been seeing this for the last 2 years, is, and you guys know, I'm going to put it to you the way I see it because I don't have the terms for it. We'll use a thermometer as an example, right? What happens to a thermometer if it goes above 130 degrees or 140 degrees Celsius? I believe that's as high as it goes. So if it's 150, it's not going to register. So that's part of what I've been seeing. So when you have these different places in the world, Russia is one, I believe Canada is another, and I'm not sure if there's a third place that checks the Schumann resonance, but here is what I have seen. They've been keeping track of the Schumann resonance, I believe, for 150 years, if not longer. So if that instrument is made to go up to 114 or 120, okay, whatever it is, and something comes in at a higher frequency, like that thermometer, it's just not going to register. This is just what I've been seeing, guys. It's not going to actually register until it comes down to the point where that instrument can actually to the point where that instrument is designed. So if the instrument is designed to go from 20 to 114 and something were to come in at 160, how I see it happening is it's coming in right at 160 and not till it comes down to the range that is the maximum on their particular tool are they able to get an accurate read on it. Now, the other thing on top of that that's going on is you'll notice that solar observatories and the places that track the Schumann resonance and other things like Earth's frequency, magnetosphere, things like that, they've been going offline an awful lot lately. So partially that could be from the energy itself, and partially I do believe it is. But I also know, because I can see this, that there are more people right now on this planet tracking the Schumann resonance, the earthquake activity, the magnetosphere activity, the volcanic activity, where a lot of this is being suppressed. So on YouTube, there's a man called Dutchanese. He is awesome. He's a great teacher. He starts out every video telling you the basics of what he's doing, what he's looking at. And he does this all for free. Gotta love him. And some of the things that he's been talking about for the last several years is the difference between what he is actually registering and then I believe what USPS is then putting out later as the actual information. Yeah, so I guess he is tracking not only what's going on energetically, but he's also tracking the difference between what he is tracking and what other independents are tracking, as opposed to what the government websites are saying. So like, let's say there's an earthquake in California, it'll originally come out and they'll say it's a 7.3, but they'll turn around and lower it within a matter of hours, and say, oh, it was a 6.5 or whatever. So that's another thing. They're messing with this. So the energy, the cosmic energy, is really messing with all of the technology that they have. And then on top of that, they are as well messing with it and suppressing it. Like I said, there are more people understanding the cosmic energy and the effect on the body and the tectonic plates and the volcanic activities. So more people than ever in recorded history are paying attention to all these things. And so a lot of people are doing independent video channels like Dutchanese. He is a wonderful teacher. He gives wonderful information, and the stuff that I learned from him, just watch him a couple times, was pretty mind-blowing to me. I don't watch him anymore, and I haven't watched him in 2 years, but I am still subscribed to his channel. And the reason that I am subscribed to his channel is because when something happens energetically, I'll just get a notification, like it'll say X-class flare or 7.3 in California. That's all I need to know. I'm down to watching and listening to nothing external of myself, except on the really rare occasion that you guys might send me something. So anyway, the cosmic energy, the solar flares, all of this energetic stuff that's coming in is messing with technology. They are also messing with technology and altering data. When I did a global meditation with you guys all over this planet, we did different kinds of healing exercises for things. And one of the things we did was we worked on pulling the man-made radiation out of the Van Allen belts. Now, little did I know that I was being followed by a scientist in Alabama who watched a couple of my videos and proceeded to send me all kinds of charts and things that I basically didn't understand. So I ended up calling her. And what she said was, from the time that we started planning this meditation to clear the radiation, man-made radiation, not solar radiation, that was not what we were working on. We were working on dismantling basically the HARP influence, okay? So we were doing meditations on this. And I had no proof for anything that I was seeing or anything that I was doing or any of these meditations worldwide that I was initiating. But this scientist reached out to me and said, I'm a scientist. I'm also a backdoor computer person. You've said this, this, and this. And here's all the charts that go with what you said. Now, the really, really fascinating part to me is this. The day that I started planning the meditation, the radiation started leaving the Van Allen belts. And every day, so I think it was maybe 6 or 7 days it took to plan this worldwide event. I did it pretty fast, I guess, for me anyway. But the 6 or 7 days that I was planning this, the radiation went down in the Van Allen belts every single day. And then the day we actually did the exercise to completely clear HARP or any kind of man-made activity, it was gone. Solar radiation was gone from the Van Allen belts. Now, she had sent me 5 or 6 days of data. She'd been collecting all this. We had never spoken, and she was collecting data on the things that I was talking about in videos. And then after the Van Allen belt, she showed me the 6 or 7 days worth of data that she had. So that to me was amazing. One, I was shocked that a scientist was following me, but anyway, the really strange part, guys, was we had saved, she had saved in her computer these 6 or 7 days of graphs and stuff of what was going on with the ionosphere and the radiation belts, et cetera, right? So after we cleared the Van Allen belts, I took a walk and I had this vision. I saw, and I knew nothing about this. Again, this was the scientist information. I saw a group of men in black suits show up to the place that is responsible for the online information about the Van Allen belts. I saw that, and I saw them get threatened. I didn't hear anything. It was all what I was seeing and telling, what they were telling them to do. So I had gotten a hold of this scientist and told her what I had seen, thinking she was probably going to think I'm crazy, but whatever. I'm going to tell her anyway, because, she's been, working with me for the past 9 days. So I tell her this, and she said, well, that's really strange because they went offline this morning, and according to their website, they are down to they are down until an undisclosed date after they said they were updating their system or something, but they could say, we're going to be back up tomorrow, whatever, just we're down to update our system, date unknown when this website will be back up. And I'm like, wow, that is insanely bizarre. So I felt crazy to reach out and tell her. I do tell her. She tells me the site is offline, and it says that they don't even know when they're going to be back online, right? And I'm like, wow, this is so crazy. I don't remember how long they were back offline, and I wasn't, tech is not my thing, right? So I wasn't tracking it. She had continued to track all of this stuff for me, but what ended up happening? Can you guess? When they came back up, I believe it was weeks later, all of the data she had collected for 7 days to prove, she just started watching it when I started talking about it. She wasn't trying to prove or disprove anything. I don't know. She didn't tell me. She said, I've been watching your videos. I've been collecting data for 6 or 7 days. So the really strange part about all of this is when the website came back up, all of the data had been altered from the 7 days from me planning the Van Allen belt exercise till the actual day when we did the global meditation. Every single day of radiation had been changed completely and totally different. So if you don't think that they realize that we're watching, and I used to think for many, many years, why is anyone watching me or listening to me, listening to what I am saying? Because I may only have a couple hundred people watching my videos, but there are definitely people watching me. Now, they're not watching me because they're threatening me. I believe they're watching me because I see what's going to happen before they do. Now, if you know anything about looking glass technology, there was an advanced technology, looking glass, where they could look into the future at probable outcomes and timelines, or nexus, which is like a main timeline where this, or this happens, it can split off into something else. They were looking at that, and they've been looking at it, I'm guessing, for thousands and thousands of years. Around 2018 or 19, shortly after that Van Allen belt exercise, not saying it's related, but that would be a coincidence, wouldn't it? They lost looking glass technology. So they lost looking glass technology, so they can't look at it. Now, what they were using this for, to get on the mild side of things, I don't want to get my channel removed. On the mild side of things, one of the things they were using looking glass technology for was, what they would do is they would say, okay, here's this nexus, which is this main timeline. And then they would use the outlets that they had of coercion and manipulation and so forth to see how what they would do would affect. So here's the major nexus of a timeline, right? And they would say, well, what if we create this illness? What if we make a news story about this? What if we create a war in Kuwait? I'm just giving you examples. And then here's your nexus, and they would look at, through the looking glass technology, they would be able to see a probable outcome. What would happen if we started a war in Kuwait? What would happen if we had a massive illness on this planet? What would happen if there was a lack of food? What would happen? So basically, through looking glass, through the manipulation of and coercion of like social media platforms, mainstream media news, and things like that, they would be able to look and say, here's a major nexus, a major timeline, and here's how these scenarios, so they could like create or project this scenario and see how it was going to end up. Okay. So one of the reasons, the major reason you're seeing like that, they'll throw a story out there and see if it sticks, right? And then, you like 6 hours later it's gone, or 2 days later it's gone, or a week later it's gone, is because they have no ability to look at how they are now affecting the timeline. So they're just throwing as many distractions, illnesses, wars, outages, whatever that they can. Basically, it's like when you want to see if the spaghetti's done, right? You toss it to the ceiling, and if it sticks, it's done. Or maybe that's just the Italian way. But I think you get what I'm saying. I see a lot of comments, you guys. I hope that you'll come back and comment after the video is over, because as soon as I look down at them, they're gone. Rachel, I see that you're here. Renee, I see you're here. Kathy, I see you're here. Mary, I see you're here. Thank you guys so much for being here, for your support and your love always. I know I talk about crazy stuff, but I've been seeing it and feeling it and hearing it my whole life. And I made a video last week, and the whole video was about receiving through the feminine and projecting or creating something. If I'm going to sit around and see these things and feel these things and hear these things. Hi, Renee. And not do anything with it. Yeah. So if I'm not going to use my gifts, what am I doing? Right. So I know it sounds crazy, and I worried about judgment for many, many decades, but I'm kind of over judgment, in case you can't tell right now. So we have a lot going on, as I mentioned. Since the scientific community cannot decide whether we are in solar minimum or solar maximum right now, that should be our first concern. You would think at the basic level they would understand that part, right? Well, obviously they don't, or maybe that's just another confusion tactic. I'm not sure. Either way, with that, there's just a lot going on energetically. So some of it is, some of technology is having real issues because of this. Some of the technology is having issues because of the constant hacking. Another thing that I've seen repeatedly over the last 3 years, I probably should be more careful, but what the heck? I see that corporations are hacking banks. I see that banks are hacking corporations. I see that one bank is hacking another bank. Do I know if it's true? No, but I'm seeing it. And most of what I see is normally, it is true. What I see always ends up being true. Now, whether it's the exact same scenario, the same getaway car, or the perpetrator I thought it was, maybe that's not always the case, but it is always happening. So there are so many things on so many levels for you to be aware of. I've been talking about this for a while. Don't feel crazy like you have to drink, like I said in the last video, or lay on the floor and flail to get your energy out, or whatever it is you have to do, right? And then think, oh, well, I don't see anything registering, so it must be me. It's not you. Your body registers this cosmic energy before the instruments do it. Now, everybody does this on a certain, like a time frame, okay? And I don't know what it depends on. I really don't. As you know, I'm hypersensitive. I know many of you are hypersensitive. So when the solar flare leaves the sun for a hypersensitive person, you may hear it as it leaves the sun, like I do. Some people feel it 48 hours later. Some people feel it when it gets here, which could be 48 hours, could be 72 hours. Yeah, it doesn't have to be 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. I'm just saying we all feel it on different levels. It is really, really, really strong. It is really, really, really messing with technology. Okay. Our government is messing with technology. Our government's messing with the banks. The banks are messing with the banks. The banks are messing with each other. The corporations are messing with the banks. The banks are messing with the corporations. Okay. So the whole reason to speak about this is not so that you'll be panicking. I doubt you're panicking when I'm smiling and laughing over here. It is so that you have an awareness of what's going on. So we're so used to technology, in some cases, we might not know our own mother's phone number. Okay. So this is sometimes a thing for me, because I know I've been seeing these scenarios since I was a child. All of these scenarios have happened. What I never understand, and what's very frustrating to me sometimes, is the time frame, only because I don't want to be telling you something that's going to happen in 2040. Okay, that'd be a little bit pointless. In my personal life, and when making videos, I'm trying to be more in a current time frame than 17 years into the future. That's weird. I would pick the number 17. Anyway, little things that we take for granted, especially, well, the majority of you watching this, anybody that knows how to get on YouTube, anybody that knows how to send me a message on Messenger, and we know you all know how to do that, is perfectly capable of, looking all these things up and tracking all these things. So my point is, your body feels it first before it registers. Does everybody's body feel it before it registers on the human? No. But if you're watching this video, you're going to feel it. It's going to register in your nervous system before other people. And not everybody, it doesn't even completely fully register, but that's a subject of a whole nother video. But anyway, so your body is the best barometer for energy, period. Whether that is a shady person walking down the side of the street and you decide you need to cross and go to the other side of the street, don't use your brain for these kind of situations. We have to use our central nervous system. Tells us when something is wrong. Our gut, our central nervous system tells us when a body is approaching us that's unsafe. Our body tells us when there's volcanic activity, even if we're 2,000 miles away from the closest volcano. Our body knows when the tectonic plates are shaking. And I have never in my life seen people react to solar flares the way I'm seeing people react to solar flares right now. I believe, okay, so for the last 3 days, I've experienced things that I normally don't experience when we have solar flares. When we have solar flares, that affects the tectonic plates move, that causes volcanic activity, that can cause tidal waves, it can cause mudslides, it can cause all kinds of things. Okay, so now think about your own body, your inner body on the macro, on the microcosmic level, right? You could look at your bones like tectonic plates, your water as the ocean. We are the earth. I am, you are, we are the earth. We feel earth, earth feels us. When these plates start shaking, when these volcanoes start having movement, when they start smoking, you guys, we feel it stronger, more accurately, and before the instruments register. And I know it's really tempting. People are like, wow, this something feels crazy. I'm going to look it up. And you're going to look it up and you're not going to find anything unless you are the person that feels it when it hits the planet, when they are registering it. I still believe they're downgrading it. I believe we've had X-class solar flares for 3 days in a row. I haven't even been on social media. I know I make those short reels on Facebook. I do videos here maybe every 9 or 10 days. Other than that, I am not on. I don't scroll. I don't listen. I don't watch. I'm not reading. I'm not engaging in it. Okay. Today I went to look it up. Many of you know Pat Donworth. So in Florida, and she's amazing because she gives you the science of what's going on, and then underneath of that, she will break down what it is causing in the body for her, what she sees in other people around her, how it affects her dream state, all that. She's amazing, and she's like at 9 or 10,000 followers on Facebook. So many of you I know her. I went on Facebook tonight before making this video to see what had actually registered, or what they were actually putting out as information. And I feel, because, okay, when the last 3 days, when these flares came in, I had mild tremors. I had heat to the point where I was stripped down to, and that's why I'm wearing a tank top right now in January in Ohio, because these solar flares have been so intense that I'm all of a sudden sweating, dizzy, whatever. and no amount of water today or for the last 3 days stopped the chapped lips. I think I'm on like 11 cups of water, which is way more than I need to hydrate my body weight at this point. Nevertheless, today, according to Pat Donworth, who gets her information straight from whatever website, solar activity website, spaceweather.com probably, said today we had 4 M-class flares, 4 M-class flares today, 6 M-class flares yesterday, 1 X-class flare yesterday, and 15 C-class flares yesterday. That's 22 solar flares yesterday. Now, also, I will tell you that she's awesome because she puts the time and the date on everything. So let's see, this was as of 9:30 a.m. Yeah, so that was at 9:30. I was at a friend's house today. I can't remember what time it was. I'm such an I don't have my phone all the time, you guys. And just wasn't paying attention to the clock. But sometime around this afternoon, I just started burning up, and my friend was burning up, and we were opening the windows in January because when it's and like I said, I mean, I'm half dressed walking around her house as it is with my summer clothes on. So something is going on. 22 solar flares yesterday, and 4 M class today as of 9:30 this morning. Now, what I was starting to tell you was, and I don't know what time it was, but sometime this afternoon, what time? She must have got back around 3:30. Must have been around 3:30. Sometime between 3 and 4 Eastern Standard Time, United States today. I can only describe what happened to my body as another X-class solar flare. I did not look it up before this video because I know my body is a better barometer than their technology. I also believe, just like the Schumann and everything else, there are so many people watching it. There's so many people with independent channels talking about space weather and like Dutchinese and how it affects us and earthquakes and volcanoes and what, you know, the reason he does this channel is so that he can tell you what your warning in your area is. Now, the reason the USGS does not like the guy and they keep shutting his channel down and stuff and messing with his channel is because the USGS does not warn people, according to him, in an adequate way with enough time. And they are downplaying or sliding the numbers down to make things seem less than they are. Now, I would guess they're doing this for a multitude of reasons, which you can guess too. There's not a whole lot of reason to go into this, okay? So your body is a better barometer of what is going on than any instrument. You're going to feel it first. You're going to feel it harder. You're going to feel it more accurately. And if an instrument is 100 years old or 50 years old or 150 years old, and we have not experienced this kind of weather before, whether they can decide what solar cycle we're in or not, minimum or maximum, if an instrument was only designed to go to 50 and something's coming in at 80, it's not going to register until it's 50. There's just no way. It's just like, you know, a scale or a thermometer or anything else. It's set to go to a certain number. Once you get over that number, it's just not going to register till it hits something that it recognizes. So I wanted you to know that. And again, the reason for saying this is the awareness that you need to have. You need to have an awareness of a lot of different things at the moment, okay? Simple things that we maybe take for granted, like you should have your emergency contacts written down in case, for some reason, you have a temporary cell phone outage. Just say your neighbor has a landline. Landlines are going to be more apt the way I'm seeing it to work. So my neighbor has a landline. My cell phone goes out, but I don't even know, you know, my boyfriend's phone number or my mom's phone number, I'm kind of got a problem, right? So think about that. Also, think about having other things written down that you take for granted that might be in your computer and your phone. And you don't need everything. I'm not telling you write a doctoral thesis on your own personal information. I'm just saying every day for 9 days, I have experienced a difficulty using a computer, using a phone, talking to an automated service, talking to a company that's not an automated service, ringing up groceries at the grocery store on a scanner. Everything electronic is having an issue. So when you look at that, and when you know that, and when you realize that technology has an issue, realize, please, that your body is the most advanced technology on this planet. And you may not think that, you may not believe that, and you may not be using it to its full capacity. I certainly know that I'm not using mine to my full capacity. Nevertheless, our body is the most advanced technology on this planet. If the U-scan cannot handle ringing up my raspberries, then think about the scan of your central nervous system. Okay, just really think about that. So take care of yourself. Make sure that you have things that are necessities. Okay, and I know people can kind of go overboard on that. What some people consider a necessity, other people do not consider a necessity. Like for me, toothpaste isn't even a necessity because if you have baking soda and coconut oil, that's better than any toothpaste on the market. So maybe think about what is a necessity to you and have necessities. Definitely for everyone on this planet, unless you're a fish, water is a necessity. So having water, having a backup of water, a week's worth of water, is going to be a big deal. Now, in Ohio, we've been experiencing, I don't even know what I want to call it. I don't drink or cook with chemical waters from the city out of the sink. Okay, so when I cook food, everything I do is spring water. For the last 6, maybe 8 months, I've had a problem getting spring water. So I'll buy 10 gallons. I'll go to the store, buy 10 gallons. I try to keep 20, 30 gallons of water. I've tried to nonchalantly mention to the neighbors they might want to store water or rice or Twinkies or whatever floats their boat. Because we're not waiting for something to happen. It's already happening. Okay. I haven't been able to, I eat an entire, foot wide box of spinach every single week. There hasn't been fresh spinach for 6 weeks. I finally broke down and bought frozen spinach. Now, the other day I go back to check again because I'm in there stocking, like looking for the spinach, right? The fresh vegetables, period. That's 80% of my diet. And there's nothing. There's no lettuce. There's no spinach. There's no mixed greens. There's no kale. There's no cilantro. Basically, they're out of green stuff. So as a last resort, I went to the frozen aisle and bought things. But I'm saying to you, make sure that you have water and make sure that you have anyone you would want to contact in a situation of emergency. If you don't know their phone number, make sure you write that down. Whatever you feel is important to write down, write that down. But be aware of your surroundings in every capacity, okay? If you know you have a problem finding water in a store on and off for 8 months, I started stocking up on water as soon as I saw the pattern of them having a problem getting water. That's when I started stocking up on getting the water. As soon as I notice a pattern in anything being impossible to get, that's when I start stocking up on it, or when I see the price on things start to skyrocket. Now, I'm not seeing any shortage on alcohol or junk food. It's all the organic and gluten-free, dairy-free stuff, and that's a problem because I believe 35, maybe 35% of the planet is eating healthy. No shortage on junk food or alcohol. It is the healthy stuff. So just be conscious and trust your intuition. If someone is walking down the street at you and you have a bad feeling, don't use your logic, just cross the street. If you feel like you better go to the gas station tonight, go to the gas station tonight. You guys, I'm telling you, because I think it was about 8 months ago when this water thing started with the spring water, I had a dream that I went to the store and the shelves were just completely empty of all spring water. So when I woke up, I was like, okay, I'm going to the store to buy spring water. And I thought, no, I got a million things to do today. I'll push it off till tomorrow. And I was like, nope, we're listening to the intuition. So I go to the store. They had 12 gallons of spring water. That's all they had. So I bought all of them. When your intuition is telling you something, listen to it. And I'm just saying, have your basic information written down. And also I've said this many times, but have a bag packed in case that there is some kind of, so like in the city where I live, it wouldn't have to be a major emergency for me to want to get the heck out of Dodge, okay? So if you live in a city, if you live in a place that's really populated, you may want to consider, there's all kinds of things to consider that we don't need to talk about, but you may have an elderly parent that you need to go tend to if something happens. You need to have a bag packed of bare necessities, okay? And I mean bare necessities. And I've even timed myself on, if someone called me and said, hey, come over, how fast could I actually get out of the house? And I can get out of here in 5 minutes. So just think about where you would go, because like I said, I don't live in a rough neighborhood. It's nothing like that. But if people's debit cards and credit cards didn't work and they couldn't get alcohol, cigarettes, gasoline, food, you would want to think about that now, because when we're talking about a Costco outage, right? Those people are all probably just, buying cookies and Christmas presents and food for their Christmas parties, right? So it wasn't a necessity, but still think about the way those people reacted, even though it wasn't a necessity. And almost nobody had cash. My dad did have cash, so he said he's been carrying, he put emergency money in his wallet, I think he said 30 years ago or something, and then realized it was in there while he was in Costco. So think about it. And we don't need this big military strategy or anything like that, but think about, for me, I would think about where I'd want to go and having my bag packed, just because I don't want to be in the city. People have been very, very, very erratic for the last 6 months. In the last 3 weeks, I have never seen anything like the erratic behavior in the city. So if for some reason, like I said, people couldn't get gas or food, or their just debit cards or credit cards didn't work and the bank wasn't open, think about that panic. But I'm not asking you to think about that panic in the way that you yourself panic. Just think about where you would want to be, where you would be safest, where you would be out of the city and away from that kind of stuff, okay? And I do know that everything has already happened, and we are on an incredible timeline of peace and love and abundance and prosperity and all of that. I am very aware of that. And a lot of people talk about it like it's the be all end all. Everything's already happened. And I've made a video about it and I've said it myself. Everything has already happened. And that's true. But we are still in the third dimension playing out the timeline of this. So we still, we still have to be prepared for it. And we still sometimes, because some people are like, oh, everything's already happened, so we don't need to talk about it. But we do need to talk about it, because these outages, the power outages, the electronic problems, the systemic banking problems, as I already discussed, all of these things can be a real issue if you're not prepared for it. If you are a person, or you're anyone, you or your family takes medicine, stuff like that, make sure you have medicine, make sure you have water, make sure you have your emergency contacts written down on paper somewhere, and make sure that you pay attention to your surroundings. And the last thing I want to say about paying attention to your surroundings is, things are very different than they were 10 years ago. And I never suggest being mean or rude or not talking to people just because they're in a different space than you, a different headspace, a different heart space. I'm not suggesting that at all. But what I am saying is, think about yourself and use your gut instinct. If 10 years ago, if someone was driving down the road with no lights on, I would flash that person to let them know that their lights are not on. Would I do that now? No, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't yell at them that their lights are off. I wouldn't honk my horn. I wouldn't do anything, because the behavior is way too erratic and you have no idea what you're going to get. Now, when you're face to face, I'm not saying disengage, and again, not to talk to people, but I'm saying people driving without lights, or people stealing stuff in the store, whatever. Tonight we are in a store. My girlfriend saw two other people in the store shoving stuff in their pants, and then just kind of looking at her like, she was the 5-0 or something. Be aware of your surroundings. And the reason I'm saying that is, don't pick a fight with someone. It's not I'm right or you're not. You want to steal? That's on you, right? That's your karma. And I'm not going to tell someone not to steal, because people are too erratic and you don't know how they're going to react to you. One, making a judgment, and two, speaking what they see, right? I wouldn't tell a homeless person to get a job. I don't tell people driving without their lights on to turn their lights on. Everybody has to have their own awareness. When someone's engaging with you, that's a very different story. But be very, very aware of your surroundings, okay? I've lived in the city. I grew up on a farm, and I've lived in the city for over 30 years now, and I don't get robbed, I don't get my car broken into, I don't have issues with people, I have nothing. But people are a little bit at a breaking point. And unfortunately, our mainstream media, as you know, is doing everyone a big disservice, because they could come on the news and say, listen, we had X-class solar flares. Science tells us that can cause weather problems, but also you should be aware that you should drink water. It also can affect your heart. It can give you an irregular heartbeat, things like this. They are doing everyone a disservice for the same reason they're doing everyone a disservice about every single thing they talk about, right? So they may say, oh, we had a solar flare today. I don't even know if they're doing that. They are not going to tell you how it affects their body, because they want people to think that they're losing it. They don't want people to know that they're normal, that their body is a barometer for the energy that's going on. And it's really important for you to know. And I know that it's really hard to talk to people about this stuff, but somebody has to be the voice of reason. So everything that's happening outside of love, outside of peace, and outside of the ascension process is a distraction. Everything that I'm talking to you about tonight is a distraction. But we have to decide, I have to decide, you have to decide. Do we need to talk about it? Do we need to hear about it? Are there things about the distractions that are going on that need to be talked about? Because I could just go meditate in a cave and not talk about any of this stuff, but that's not helping anyone, okay? People are acting erratic. Computers are acting erratic. The sun is acting erratic. And even though they can't decide which cycle we are in, and even though people think what's gone on in the last 4 days is completely and totally normal, I'm going to have to disagree, because my body and your body is a better barometer than any instrument. We are the most advanced technology on this planet. Whatever you feel, as much as you can, go on the whim of doing that, whether that's eating all fruit one day, eating all heavy food one day, taking a 3-hour nap, whatever your lifestyle will accommodate. Just don't talk yourself out of it. Don't say, well, I looked it up, there's nothing going on, I'm just being late. I see people talking like this, like, oh, I must just be lazy today, or whatever. You're not lazy. Your body is an advanced piece of technology that is telling you what is going on in the energy that affects your body and how it affects your body. You're incredibly brilliant. You can feel this. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't let anyone talk you out of it. Don't let a guru talk you out of it. Don't let spaceweather.com talk you out of it. Don't let suspicious observers talk you out of it, whatever. I'm just saying, you are the first line of the feeling. You are the barometer. So what you feel should be overriding what suspicious observers or space weather or anybody else says. So take care of yourself, beautiful people, in the best way you can. And I do realize, and there are always those people that want to be critical, right? That everything has already happened, that nothing but peace, love, understanding, and ascension is real, and everything else is a distraction. But we are here to help each other, to assist each other. And one of the big reasons for social media being so prevalent at this time, I believe, is so we can talk to people in different countries. Because when the news says this is going on in the UK, and I talk to 10 people in the UK and they say that's not what's going on, this is going on. We are the news, okay? We are the news. We are the barometer. We are the ascension. That's it. It's us. Everything outside of that is a distraction, and we know it. But we still have to help each other and assist each other. I wanted to share with you the amount of craziness I have experienced in dealing with anything, pretty much everything from UScan to the bank to calling a government phone number, okay? When we are talking about in the future something happening, we don't need to, guys. It's happening right now. This is all happening right now. So just do those little things for yourself. Have whatever it is you consider a necessity, okay? Necessity is not a necessity. To me, coffee is a necessity, and I have a grill out back and a stash of wood and 98 gallons of paper in case we have an outage to make sure that I have coffee, because to me, coffee is a necessity, okay? Figure out what is a necessity to you, figure out who is a necessity to you, figure out who you would want to contact in an emergency, and make sure you have their phone number written down on a piece of paper somewhere, not stored in your phone. And this is something I experienced at Costco the other day, because I couldn't find my car in the Costco parking lot, and my mom and I were both really tired. I said, you stay with the car. I will run up and down every single aisle of the parking lot. And then the reason I did that was because I left my phone in the car with my upstairs neighbor in case she needed anything, she should call me. And then I'm like, oh crap. Okay, well, that's great, but I don't know her phone number. So I couldn't call her. So I ran up and down every aisle in Costco for 17 minutes. And then I turned around after I told my mom to stay there, and she was gone. So Be prepared. Keep your state of calmness. Okay. We can be calm if we are prepared. Okay. So be prepared. Hello, Herman. How you doing? All right, guys. Oh my gosh, it was an hour and 15 minutes again. All right. I'm cut off. All right. I love you. And until next time, be prepared and be aware of your surroundings. I love you. Bye.